The vanishing Earth, the world was peaceful, or at least it seemed. Humanity had reached out into the stars, building colonies on distant planets and moons. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. People had spread across the galaxy, exploring, discovering, and thriving. But one day something strange happened. It started with a glitch. Communications from the colonies, which had once been steady and frequent, began to falter. At first it was small, just a few missed transmissions, a delay here and there, but soon entire colonies went silent. The last message from Mars was cryptic. The Xyliths are real, they're coming. And then nothing. Scientists and governments scrambled to figure out what was happening. Ships sent to investigate the colonies disappeared. No one knew why or how. It was as if the colonies had vanished into thin air. There were no signs of struggle, no wreckage, no traces of anyone who had been there. The universe seemed to hold its breath. The mystery deepened when Earth, the only surviving planet with a functioning government, suddenly lost all contact with its far-reaching satellites. All communication systems went down. Military networks scrambled to find answers, but the silence was deafening. The whole world feared the worst. It wasn't just a technical problem. Something far more sinister was at work. In the chaos, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a top scientist at the Earth Defense Agency, was working late into the night. She stared at her computer screen, watching the strange patterns emerging from the data. There was a signal, faint but persistent, coming from deep in the Earth's oceans. No one had expected it. How could it be coming from there? She tapped a few keys, sending the signal to a higher authority. The message was clear but mysterious. The answer is beneath you. What did it mean? Was there hope? Or was this just another part of the puzzle that humanity couldn't solve? The world held its breath. Time was running out. And somewhere, deep, beneath the ocean, humanity's last hope lay hidden. But who would find it in time? The question remained, why had the Earth's colonies disappeared? And who or what was out there, watching them? The mysterious signal. The silence that followed the disappearance of Earth's colonies was suffocating. There were no answers, just questions. Questions that drilled into the hearts of every person on the planet. Governments and military leaders scrambled for control, while scientists worked tirelessly to unravel the mystery. Among them was Dr. Sarah Mitchell, whose life's work had always been about understanding the unknown. But nothing had prepared her for this. Late one evening, as Sarah sifted through endless streams of data, a strange anomaly appeared. It wasn't like the usual interference, the random noise that could be explained away by faulty equipment. This was different. This was a deliberate pattern, a signal of some kind, coming from deep within the oceans of Earth. The signal was weak but persistent, almost as if it was calling out to her. Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard, her heart racing. Could it be a sign of something, someone still alive, or perhaps something far more sinister? The ocean was vast, full of mysteries that had remained hidden for centuries. But could this be the breakthrough they needed? She ran the signal through every decoding program she had. As the words slowly took shape on the screen, Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The message was simple, but it carried a weight she couldn't ignore. The time has come. The weapon lies beneath the waves. Sarah stared at the screen, trying to make sense of it. What weapon? And why beneath the waves? The idea seemed impossible. No one had ever suggested that there was anything of significance hidden in Earth's oceans, at least not on such a scale. Yet every instinct told her that this was the key to understanding what had happened to the colonies. She quickly shared the message with her superiors. But as she waited for their response, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching. And it wasn't just the government or her colleagues she needed to worry about. There were others out there, dark forces that had been waiting for the right moment to strike. In a dimly lit corner of the Earth Defense Agency's headquarters, Sarah found herself alone with her thoughts. The ocean, which had always been a place of mystery and wonder, now felt like a graveyard, holding secrets too dangerous to reveal. The stakes were higher than ever. And as she prepared to investigate the source of the signal, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, what if the weapon buried beneath the waves was not just humanity's hope for survival, but the key to the destruction of everything they knew? The countdown had begun, and the ocean's deep secrets were waiting to be uncovered, the lost city beneath. The world had gone silent, but beneath the ocean's depths, a different kind of noise echoed. A faint, constant hum that seemed to grow louder the deeper Sarah and her team ventured. The signal, which had once seemed like a faraway whisper, now felt like a thunderous call, pulling them toward something ancient, something forgotten. Sarah and her team, along with Max, a former soldier turned reluctant ally, descended into the heart of the ocean, aboard a cutting-edge submersible. The water was cold, dark, and seemingly endless, stretching beyond the reach of any known technology. As they descended, the world above became nothing more than a memory, and all that remained was the vast, uncharted expanse below. The journey had already been perilous, twists of underwater caves and hidden trenches that no one had dared to explore before. But the further they traveled, the more they felt the weight of something watching them. It wasn't just the water pressing in from all sides. It was something else, something from the depths of the Earth's past, something alive. Hours passed, and just when they were about to lose hope, the sonar picked up something unusual. There, buried beneath the seabed, was a massive structure, far larger than any natural formation. It was a city, or at least what remained of one. Its ruins stretched out like an ancient spider's web, its pillars and walls worn by time, but still standing strong, as if waiting for something, or someone. Max's face went pale as the submersible approached the ruins. He had heard legends, whispers about a lost civilization that had once lived beneath the oceans. But the stories had always been dismissed as myths. Now here they were, at the very doorstep of something that shouldn't exist. "Are we sure? This is it?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper. Max nodded, though his eyes betrayed a deep unease. "This isn't just a city, Sarah. This is a tomb." As they navigated through the labyrinth of ruins, an unsettling feeling grew. The walls were covered with strange markings, symbols that seemed to pulse with energy as if they were alive. The deeper they went, the more the atmosphere thickened, like something ancient was stirring. And then they found it. At the heart of the city stood a massive structure, its door ajar as if waiting for them to enter. It wasn't just a door, it was a portal, an entrance to something that defied understanding. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. This was it. The weapon, the key to their survival, or perhaps their doom, lay just beyond that door. But as she reached out to step forward, Max grabbed her arm. His face was grim. "We're not alone. It wasn't a warning, it was a fact. Something had been waiting here for centuries, and now it was awake." Awakening the weapon, the air inside the ancient structure was thick with a strange energy, as if the very walls were humming with power. Sarah stepped forward, her heartbeat quickening as she approached the central chamber. The door, which had been closed for eons, now stood open, inviting them into its depths. She could feel it, a deep pull, an unseen force drawing her toward the heart of the ruin. This was more than just a city. It was a vault, and within it lay the key to saving or destroying Earth. Max lingered at the entrance, his face etched with doubt. "This feels wrong," he muttered, his voice barely audible over the echoing hum of the chamber. He'd been to battlefields, to places of unimaginable danger, but this place was different. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were intruding on something sacred, something that had been waiting for them to arrive. But Sarah was already moving forward, her mind set. There was no turning back now. The signal had led them here. The weapon, buried beneath the ocean for centuries, was the only thing that could stand against the alien threat, and if they didn't activate it, humanity was doomed. The chamber was vast, its ceiling towering above them. Massive stone pillars lined the walls, each etched with symbols that seemed to come alive in the dim light of their flashlights. At the center of the room stood a massive pedestal, and on it a glowing orb pulsed with an eerie light. The orb was surrounded by a series of intricate machines, each more complex than anything Sarah had ever seen. This was no ordinary weapon. It was something ancient, something far beyond human understanding. Sarah approached the pedestal cautiously. Her fingers brushed the surface of the orb, and instantly, a surge of energy shot through her. She gasped, stumbling back as the entire room seemed to come alive. The symbols on the walls flared with light and the ground trembled beneath her feet. It was as though the weapon had awakened after a long slumber, responding to her touch. Max rushed forward to steady her. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," she replied, her voice shaky. "It's alive. It's reacting to something. Maybe to me." The orb's glow intensified and a low mechanical voice filled the room, its words reverberating through Sarah's chest. "The Chosen One has arrived. The weapon is ready, but it will not be controlled without cost." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The Chosen One? What did that mean? Was she the one the ancient message had been referring to? Before she could process the revelation, the voice continued. "To wield the weapon is to sacrifice. Choose wisely, for the fate of all rests in your hands." Max stepped back, his face pale. "Sarah, we need to be careful. This could destroy everything." But Sarah couldn't pull away. The weapon was more than just a tool. It was a living thing, waiting for someone to wield it. She didn't know if she was ready for the responsibility, but there was no time to hesitate. And then, as if answering her thoughts, the orb cracked open, revealing an ancient glowing core. A deep hum filled the chamber, and Sarah knew that the weapon was now hers to control. But the cost? She could feel it, the weight of it. This weapon would not only fight the Xyliths, it would change everything. Max reached out, his voice urgent. "Sarah, stop. We don't know what it will do." But it was too late. The weapon was already in her hands. And with it, the fate of humanity would be decided. The betrayal. The world outside the ancient city was still, a suffocating silence hanging in the air as Sarah held the glowing core in her hands. The weapon, now fully awakened, hummed with an otherworldly energy that sent waves of power through her entire body. She could feel it, coursing through her veins, and though part of her feared what it might do, another part of her felt an undeniable pull. This was her destiny. She had been chosen for a reason. Max's voice broke through her thoughts, sharp and urgent. "We need to get out of here, Sarah. The Xylith fleet is already in orbit. If we don't move fast, we'll be trapped in this city when the sky falls." He was right. The battle for Earth had already begun. The Xyliths had arrived. But Sarah's focus was on the weapon, the core. She could feel its power growing stronger by the second. The world outside could wait. She needed to understand it to unlock its full potential. She had to. But just as Sarah turned to speak, Max stepped forward, his face shadowed in the dim glow of the chamber. His expression was unreadable, and for the first time since they had started this mission together, she felt a wave of unease. "I told you to stop," Max said, his voice quiet. But there was something in it, a tone Sarah hadn't heard before. Cold. Her heart skipped. "What are you talking about, Max?" She looked up at him, searching for any sign of the ally she had trusted. Max's lips twisted into a bitter smile. "You never asked the right questions, did you, Sarah? The weapon, it's not just a defense, it's a trigger, a key to something much darker." Sarah stepped back, a cold dread crawling up her spine. "What do you mean? What are you saying?" Max's eyes darkened, and for the first time Sarah saw the truth. This wasn't just a man who had been through wars and survived. This was a man who had been carrying a secret, one far darker than anything she could imagine. "I was never here to help you, Sarah," Max admitted, his voice low. "I wasn't just tracking the Xyliths, I've been working with them." The words hit her like a slap in the face. Max, the man she'd trusted, the soldier who had saved her life more Times than she could count had betrayed her, but worse than that, he had been playing a game from the start. I knew about the weapon, Max continued, his gaze unwavering. I knew you'd find it, and I knew that once you did, it would be too late to stop the Xyliths. Sarah's mind raced, struggling to process the betrayal. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. Max hadn't just been helping her to uncover the truth. He had been manipulating her all along, using her to bring the weapon to life. But why? You were never meant to stop the Xyliths, Max said coldly. You were meant to bring their destruction. Before Sarah could respond, Max lunged at her, knocking the glowing core from her hands. It landed with a soft thud, but the chamber around them shuddered as if the weapon was aware of the shift. Max stood over her, his eyes burning with a new, dangerous intensity. You don't understand, Sarah, Max whispered. This is the only way to win. The Xyliths will destroy Earth, but they will never control it. The weapon is their undoing. And now, it's mine. Sarah scrambled to her feet, her mind racing. The Xyliths were already here, and now Max had the weapon. He had betrayed them all, and he was going to unleash chaos. Her only choice was clear. She had to stop him. But how could she fight the one person who knew her weaknesses better than anyone else? And would she be able to stop the weapon in time before it was too late? The final stand. The air inside the ancient chamber was thick with tension. Each breath Sarah took feeling heavier than the last. The weapon, the glowing core, now rested in Max's hands, its power swirling around him like a storm, feeding off his anger and determination. The once quiet hum that had filled the room was now a violent roar, as if the weapon itself was awakening to the chaos that Max was about to unleash. Sarah's heart raced, her mind working faster than ever before. She couldn't believe what had just happened, how everything had fallen apart in the blink of an eye. Max, the man she had trusted with her life, was now the very thing she had sworn to fight against. He was no longer an ally. He was a threat. Max, don't do this, she shouted, her voice cracking with desperation. She knew the power of the weapon all too well. If Max unleashed it, it wouldn't just destroy the Xyliths. It would shatter everything, the Earth, humanity, everything they had fought for. But Max's eyes were cold, distant. The man she had known was gone, replaced by someone driven by a singular obsession. Revenge. You don't understand, Sarah. The Xyliths took everything from me. They'll destroy Earth if we don't destroy them first. This weapon is the only way to stop them. And if I have to tear the world apart to do it, then so be it. His words hit her like a physical blow. Max's grief, his anger, they had consumed him, twisted him into someone unrecognizable. Sarah's pulse quickened. She had to stop him. But how? She was no match for the power of the weapon that Max now held. The rumbling of the chamber grew, louder, and Sarah realized that the weapon was reacting to the conflict. The deeper Max's resolve hardened, the stronger the weapon became. It wasn't just a tool anymore. It was a living force, a creature of energy and destruction. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled violently and Sarah stumbled. The ancient ruins began to crack, stone falling from the ceiling. She could hear the faint sounds of Xylith ships in orbit, their engines buzzing like angry wasps. They were close, closer than she had realized. Max's gaze never wavered from the weapon, his hands trembling as the core pulsed brighter with each passing second. He was too far gone, consumed by the power of the weapon and his need for vengeance. The Xyliths wouldn't just be stopped. They would be eradicated completely, and Earth along with them. Sarah knew then that she had no choice. She had to make the ultimate sacrifice to stop Max before he did something irreversible. She rushed forward, desperation and fury mingling in her veins. She wouldn't let him destroy everything. With a swift motion, she reached out, using every ounce of strength, to knock the weapon from Max's hands. He fought back, but the weight of his emotions, his obsession, was his undoing. As Sarah's fingers brushed the glowing core, a surge of energy shot through her. The weapon's power crackled, the force threatening to consume her. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Sarah could feel the weapon's power flowing through her, coursing like a wildfire through her veins. She could hear the Xylith ships outside closing in, and knew that the moment of truth had arrived. The weapon was no longer just a tool. It was part of her now, a part of her soul. And if she could wield it properly, it could save humanity. But the cost, she could already feel it, would be devastating. She could feel the deep, unrelenting pull of the weapon's energy, a force that was both exhilarating and terrifying. It was too much for one person to control, and Sarah knew that whatever decision she made now would change the fate of the entire planet. Max was silent now, watching her with wide eyes, but it wasn't anger that filled them anymore. It was fear. Fear of the weapon's power. Fear of what she was about to do. "This is it, Max," Sarah whispered. "Either we fight together, or I stop you before it's too late." But even as the words left her lips, she could feel the Xyliths closing. Inchir, the weapon's energy was reaching its peak. And the only way to stop the impending destruction was for Sarah to make the ultimate choice. The fate of Earth rested in her hands, and there was no turning back now. The last human victory. The air was thick with the hum of energy, crackling around Sarah like an electric storm. The weapon, now fully in her control, pulsed with a power that seemed to resonate with the very core of Earth itself. The Xylith. Fleet hovered above, their dark ships casting long, ominous shadows over the planet as if waiting for the final blow. The Earth's fate had been decided the moment the weapon had been activated, and now it was a race against time to unleash its full power before the aliens could strike. Sarah could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She had come so far, and yet she knew that the power she held could either save the world or destroy it entirely. The weapon was more than just a defense. It was an ancient force capable of altering the fabric of the universe itself, but with that power came an unbearable cost, one that Sarah was unwilling to ignore. She knew that once she unleashed the weapon, there would be no going back. The consequences would be far-reaching, and she would be the one to bear the responsibility. Max stood at the edge of the chamber, his eyes haunted by what he had almost done. The betrayal had been his, but in that moment Sarah understood. He wasn't a villain. He was a man driven by loss, by the need to protect Earth from an unstoppable enemy. But his obsession had clouded his judgment, and in the end, it had almost cost them everything. The Xyliths were close now, their ships descending like a storm ready to consume the planet. The weapon hummed louder, its energy reaching a fever pitch. Sarah's hands trembled as she adjusted the controls, each decision she made sending ripples of power through the air. She could feel the weapon responding to her every thought, every flicker of doubt, every surge of resolve. "It's now or never," she whispered to herself, eyes fixed on the sky. "For Earth." Max stepped forward, his voice low. "Sarah, you know what this will cost. If you fire it, the balance will be shattered. You can't just save Earth. You might destroy it too." "I'm not destroying Earth," she replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "I'm saving it." With one final push, she activated the weapon. The explosion of energy that followed was unlike anything Sarah had ever felt. The core erupted in a blinding wave of light, spreading outward in an instant. The sky above was torn open as the weapon's power shot into the heart of the Xylith fleet. Their ships, once formidable and menacing, were now nothing more than crumbling husks, disintegrating in the wake of the energy blast. The fleet scattered, unable to withstand the raw power of the weapon. But even as the Xylith ships burned in the atmosphere, Sarah could feel the earth tremble beneath her. The weapon had done its job. It had wiped out the alien threat, but in the process, it had begun to unravel the very fabric of reality. The energy surge had destabilized the planet's core, and she could feel it. Earth was dying. Max stepped beside her, his face pale but determined. "You did it, Sarah. You saved us, but we don't have much time." The world was breaking apart around them, the earth shaking violently as fissures spread through the ground. The sky was torn with lightning, the ocean boiling as if the planet itself were fighting to survive. Sarah looked down at the weapon, now dimming, its power spent. The price had been paid, and Earth would never be the same. "I can't let it end like this," Sarah whispered, the weight of her decision pressing down on her chest. Max grabbed her arm, pulling her away from the crumbling ruins. "We'll rebuild. We have to. You've given us a chance." But Sarah's mind was elsewhere, her thoughts lingering on the distant stars. The Xyliths were gone, but their presence had shaken the very foundation of humanity. She had destroyed their fleet, but the weapon's power had torn open a path, one that would lead to new threats, new battles, and new dangers. As they made their way through the ruins of the ancient city, the ground beneath their feet still trembling, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the war was far from over. The weapon had given humanity a victory, but at a terrible cost. And as the stars above flickered ominously, she knew they were no longer alone in the universe. The future of Earth was uncertain, but Sarah knew one thing: they had won, for now, and with that, humanity's story was only just beginning.